one habit of waking up at 5 a.m. has created a domino effect of all these other changes, which I didn't even think, but they were happening because of that one change.
I think I will definitely pick the experience because the experiment or the experience. Because if I don't feel it, see it, or live it, I don't believe in that, right?
So
And I
I remember I started closing things left and right. In some
think.
cases, I started paying things in advance. So what happened in that quarter? We had the highest collection, which also gave us got a lot of money because we were paid based on collections.
Well, here we are with our first episode of Fundamentals with Gotham. With a lot of hard work, planning, and passion, I conceptualized the idea of this podcast, which I call Fundamentals. What I mean is that every human being has some building blocks in their life, the fundamentals which make them what they are today. Today's guest is someone I thought was very important for me for this theme. I read a book about him and I thought he should be my first guest for this podcast. I approached him, and as he said that, the universe supported my intent, and I am with him today speaking on life. His name is Amit Agarwal, the author of the book Small is Big. Amit Agarwal is synonymous to sales and startup. He has coined terms like salespreneur. He had an extensive selling experience in 23 countries across bootstraps and startups. Amit aims to harness and evangelize four life skills: sales, mindfulness, nutritional diet, and personal finance. He believes that incremental progress in harnessing these life skills helps us balance material accomplishments and spiritual growth. So here I am presenting my first guest to you, Amit Agarwal. Amit, thank you so much for being part of Fundamentals with Gotham. Trust me, Amit, when I started thinking about this concept of fundamentals, I was reading a book and I felt I should approach you and get you as my first guest because nothing can be better than you and your book. And we'll talk more about it, Amit. So, how are you, Amit?
I'm doing well, Gautam, and thanks for inviting me as your first guest. I'm honored, and I hope I can share something which is of value to you and your audience.
Thank you so much, Amit. So, Amit, to start with, how are you feeling this morning? And where are you at this moment of time?
I am in Bangalore, and since I wake up quite early, which is one of my micro habits, because of that, my walk is over, my meditation is over, and now the talk is happening. So I'm feeling good.
So you started talking about waking up early and meditation, etc., right? So I'm sure your day starts from those areas actually, and probably your book also starts with a concept about meditation and how you talked about small things makes big. So why don't we start with that topic, and if you can explain us a bit more about it?
I think I've thought about it, and some people have asked me in the past, and even if they ask me currently, I think if there is one thing which has contributed to the maximum impact in my life, it is waking up at 5 a.m. When I wake up at 5 a.m., previously I remember I will think about reading, I will think about meditating, I will think about exercising, I will think about going early to office. None of this will happen. I will think about sleeping early. None of this will happen. Eating at the right time. But when I started waking up at the 5 a.m., then as I woke up, I look at the bookshelf. This happened in 2018 January. And I look at the bookshelf, the books were calling me. So I started reading. And as I started reading, around 25-30 minutes I read every day. And after that, I live in suburbs of Bangalore. It is very nice, very beautiful here. So either myself or my wife will walk together for around minimum 21 minutes, or if someday she can't, I will go cycling. Then meditation, I practice Vipassana meditation. So minimum 30 minutes to 1 hour, 30 minutes almost every day. So that, and then because of this, I can also start my work early. When I was going to office, right now I work from home. But when I was going to office, I will reach early. And because of this, I will also depart early from office. And because of that, I will reach home early, and I will have my dinner at around 7, 7:15, 7:30 p.m. I'll finish it. And because of this, I will tell my two stories to my kids, and around 9 to 9:30, that is the time when I sleep. Now, and during course of this, I wrote two books also. Because the thing which has contributed maximum to writing, to my writing, is waking up at 5 a.m. So in a way, this one micro habit, as I mentioned in the book, small is big, that small things create big changes. In this case, one habit of waking up at 5 a.m. has created a domino effect of all these other changes, which I didn't even think, but they were happening because of that one change.
When I talk about these fundamentals, I have realized that, and when you talk about these habits, right? So normally we hear about them, we read about them everywhere, right? But you have mentioned very clearly in your book about small experiments that you have done, and that's where the essence of my discussion is that how do you experiment, make those experiment either success or failure, and how do you get the experience out of it?
I think, see, in Vipassana, I learned that there are three kinds of wisdom. The first wisdom is what you learn from hearing or reading somebody. Uh, the second wisdom is intellectual wisdom, which is whatever you have heard, you have analyzed it. And the third kind of wisdom is what called is experiential wisdom, which comes by doing things, by actually living that. So since you are asking about experiments, that's the reason I thought that the kinds of wisdom. And if I may ask you, all wisdoms are good, but if you have to pick one, which one would you pick?
I think I will definitely pick the experience, because the experiment or the experience. Because if I don't feel it, see it, or live it, I don't believe in that, right? And I think that's why when I read so many books, it didn't help me much, right?
Besides,
I read it and I forgot it. So how to live it? I think that's
besides.
that's where we all struggle.
That is what experiential wisdom is the key. So in line with that, let me share some examples. So one is already 5 a.m., as I mentioned to you, what happened
Right.
because of that. The other is, which I mentioned in the book Small is Big, is, this there was a concept where social media is detrimental. We know excess of everything is detrimental, whether it is social media or something else. Excess, in Hindi they say ati leads to durgati. So yeah, excess of anything is bad. So I actually read one. I think I heard a podcast or a video where Carl Newport, who is the author of Deep Work, he had said that social media is like giving cigarette to a 13-year-old. So I think that very profound statement. So I reflected on it. Can I quit social media? And the answer was no, I couldn't. So what can I do? So the answer was, can I stop seeing any social media, WhatsApp, anything on one day? I started that as Saturday. So what I noticed is, as I stopped this only for one day, the social media and WhatsApp for Saturday, following started happening. First of all, I did have so much time to do things which I like. For example, I will go cycling. Second is, I actually cook minimum one time and sometimes two times. And cooking is very creative work. And then I started talking to my parents on a video chat on every Saturday, because I have so much time, because this phone is not. If I don't have WhatsApp and social media on Saturday, then phone almost doesn't exist on Saturday. Then I started playing cricket on terrace, something which I never thought. We have a terrace in our house, and since, because the brain is doesn't have anything else to do, is so focused on joys of life. Okay? So all of these things were happening by just doing one thing, which is, in your language, experiments. So what I experimented is by developing one micro habit of not checking social media and WhatsApp on a Saturday, and the rest is,
Right.
all the benefits I've gained out of it.
Now, Amit, I read your book and I really found there was a lot of reference about COVID. And I know pre-COVID, post-COVID, the world has changed. And I'm picking up this topic intentionally. Was COVID had any effect of this realization for you? And does that help you, because suddenly you found like, okay, the clutter of life has stopped because we don't have to go out, things were simple. Was that a kind of moment of realization?
Actually, no, because if you see the beginning of the book, how it came in the 2018 January, when I was in a meditation place and silence
Hmm.
meditation. And on the third day, I had to do some painful exercise, which was very painful for. And I was aware of it because I was doing it the ninth advanced meditation course. So I was aware of it. To
Okay.
avoid that pain, I was asking a question to the universe, that what can I do to decrease the discomfort associated with the pain and increase my commitment towards completing this exercise. You know, and the answer came is, don't focus on 20 minutes. Divide 20 minutes into 1 minute each, and focus only on 1 minute. The point was, it was very painful, and by dividing it by 1 minute each and focusing only on 1 minute, I was able to complete that exercise without shouting, crying, and everybody else, 200, 300 people were shouting, crying, chanting. So at that, once that exercise finished, you have to lie down and rest, because it is quite engrossing and quite exhaustive also. Once, so I almost lie down, and then when I woke up, I on a piece of paper I wrote small is big.
Wow.
So that was in January of 2018. Now I started observing things, which is, looking at the power of small. And then what happened is, I started writing my, first book, which was the Ultimate Sales Accelerator. Correct? So this
Okay.
idea was there, but it was sparked. So in 2018, while this experience happened in January, I started writing my first book, which was published in July of 2019. So the idea was still there. In December of 2019, when I was looking to write the second book, I asked my sons, I gave them three options, and my two sons and my wife chose this, small is big.
Okay.
And maybe it resonated more with audiences because of the impact of COVID. Because in COVID, people realize that, the things that really matter, you have to focus on them. It could be mental health, it could be family, it could be physical health. Those are things which matter more than several other things.
Right, right. No, that's great. You do also mention about your family, kids a lot in your book, and you also mentioned about social media and how you cut yourself for a day, right? How are you influencing your family and particularly your children around it, right? Because that's a bit challenging because they're born with that, right? With social media, mobile, everything. So, what's your perspective there? How should parents deal with that?
Well, I would say this is that is I'm a father of two teenagers. So one is 16 year, another is 13 years. So that is certainly uh, what I would say a difficult part of it, because kids are, especially when teenagers are there, they are undergoing a different experience. So from our perspective, myself and my wife, we believe in this three principle word called Shraddha, Sabri, and Sadhana.
Hmm.
Shraddha is faith. The faith. You can also say trust. I like the word faith. So faith in
Okay.
my teaching, on our teaching, whatever we believe in, faith in our values, and faith in our kids. So that is one, which is Shraddha. Sabri is patience, because patience. If you ask, in this case, if I ask my kid to do something, and if he doesn't do, then I need to be patient about it. And the sadhana is disciplined action. So which means, if I have said that, okay, this time slot is only 30 minutes, and and if he has gone beyond 35 minutes, either myself or my wife will observe it. So which is sadhana. And sadhana, it's also, as parents, we have to observe our kids, giving them the window they need, which is patience, and having faith in them. So I think combination of these three things on the matter of social media, or let's say consuming content on television or iPad or any such thing, has helped us. And I think we are in the right direction.
Now, moving to the micro habits, making macro changes. I think that's quite a lot in your book, and that's one of the main theme. And I really love the fact that you started with the personal side of your story on micro habits, which you just talked about, and then you took it to the business and the larger world and the society. So, for all of us, right? Why don't you just talk about a few more things there?
Absolutely. I think we spoke about Gotham, about two things. One is that 5 a.m. example. The
Right.
other, we spoke about the social media on Saturday. Okay? There are several. I mean, during the reason I liked your podcast title is because you talked about experiments and experiences, and those are the things which I do on myself. Right? So as I was writing this book, also, besides the two which I shared, I did several other things. For example, one of them was stopping milk and milk related products.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I've written in the book that, I mean, I was aware of this for long time. That and I had decreased sweet content and all of that. But stopping milk completely, this happened during when I was writing the book. Somebody said, "Why don't you try it for 15 days?" They said, "Okay." So I tried again the power of small. Although I knew that 66 days it is required to create a habit, but milk I started with 15 days. There's another habit is which I'm very proud of, and it has impacted my health very positively, is drinking ashgard juice. It's also called
Hmm.
white pumpkin, So every
Right.
morning, myself and my wife, we drink it. We live near a village. We thought, how will we get this ashgard juice? But when you show an intent, universe opens up. So right now, even during pandemic, the ashgard used to be actually delivered to our house.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a great example of, if intention is there and you take some action, then universe helps. So because we live very far, so ashgard juice has helped me tremendously, I mean, in my energy levels, in my overall digestive system, overall being. So these are, now you may say, how do I cultivate this habit? This I have shared in the book, that there are three R's: risk, reward,
Hmm.
and repetition.
Hmm. Hmm.
To cultivate a habit, you just require these three things. Identify risk, or if you will not cultivate the habit. Identify reward. What will you get if you cultivate the habit? And the R is for repetition. Once you do that, you have to just repeat it. And the research shows that repetition is 66 days. So I ask you, since you have read the book, among the three R's, which is the most important? What would you say?
I definitely think reputation is very important, and I completely agree with you. And I also agree with that intent creates opportunities. For example, I intended to have you in my first show, and you are here, so
Yeah.
so universe opened up. But I still have a question and probably a bit of a doubt here, and I'll ask you straight that. So 66 days is fine. We all do our New Year resolutions. We practice things probably for 66 days, but then suddenly it doesn't sustain. And I know you have talked about resonance a lot in your book, and there is a spiritual angle to everything that you said. So is spirituality helps your, does it, is there an angle to that also? It's not just habit formation, but something more, the universe, which has to help you. So what is all about resonance and spirituality to do all with all these habit forming
Yeah.
changes?
So, see, resonance is a very profound concept which I learned during my spiritual work in dream science and symbol interpretation. There is a organization called UCM where I first came across it. And simply put, resonance is, basically each of us are vibrating at a frequency. So anything which is happening in our life, anything
Hmm.
is happening in our life, it is happening because that thing is vibrating at the same frequency as ours. There is a
Okay.
small percentage. Now the power of small is that, for example, suppose you come across, you're working in corporates, and you consider yourself to be very sharp, very silent, and peaceful and joyful, yet you keep on finding supervisors which are very
Hmm.
aggressive.
Right. Right.
It's very aggressive. Now, logically, you
Hmm.
can't
Hmm.
explain it. Yeah,
Hmm.
you will see that, okay, no, I am very peaceful, this thing, and yet I find out supervisors time again. I keep on changing jobs and keep on finding people, supervisors who are very aggressive. Why is that? So, what law of resonance? You apply law of resonance. First, we have to acknowledge, meaning whatever is happening. In this case, I am attracting aggressive supervisor. That means there is a small percentage within me who is aggressive, who takes authority in a negative way. Now that
Hmm.
authority may not be with your subordinates. The
Hmm.
authority may be with your anybody, family members. It could be with your kids. It could be anything else. You know. So first you have to acknowledge that it is happening. Because you have to acknowledge that it is within you. You are resonating with that frequency of negative
Hmm.
authority or aggression. Right?
Okay.
So there is one example. Let me give you another example, which is like there was a time where I used to work in a startup, I think 2017, and all our clients were happy, and yet they will not pay. They
Hmm.
will not pay,
Hmm.
and I was discussing with my sales and customer success team, and is there a problem? No, they were very happy, and they actually said, "You also went there." They were happy. You were there. I mean, they were telling me. I said, "Yeah, they looked happy, man." Then why are they not paying? He said, nobody knows. And then since I attended that workshop of DSSI, I knew law of resonance. So I applied on myself. I said, as a head of revenue of that company, am I resonating at the frequency which is of non-payment? If I am, that is the reason I'm attracting it. So I have to acknowledge it first. And then the second is act. So what did I do? I started observing, is there any payment which I have not done, whether it is an EMI, whether it is some fees, school fees, or anything else. If am I not reviewing something which has been pending with me? Because everything is it's not about payment is just a type of transaction. It is about closing things. So I remember I started closing things left and right. In some
Mm,
cases I started
mm.
paying things in advance. So
Okay.
what happened in that quarter, we had the highest collection, which also gave us got a lot of money because we were paid based on collections. so,
Mm.
now this is
Right.
again example of resonance. The first is you have to acknowledge, that there is a small percentage with me who's attracting this situation.
It's basically the intent. So whether it is conscious or subconscious, there is an intent which may come back to you in a negative way or in a positive way. Is that
Yes.
what you are saying?
Yes, and
Great.
the key part here is that, which just to give you an example of Buddha. So when
Mm,
Buddha became fully enlightened, you know,
mm,
there were also problems, which several problems. There was Ajat Shatru, the Magadha king, who was creating problems. There were so many people who didn't understood his style of teaching. They were creating problem, including a problem where one lady comes and said that you are the father of my child. Why I'm mentioning that is that you may say that Buddha is enlightened, then why is he encountering these problems? The point is not about the problem. The problems will come. What will happen to you is, are you equanimous? Because the goal of life is to be equanimous in pain or pleasure. Resonance means if you are having dissonance due to the problem, then you have resonance towards it. Are we equanimous? If we are an equanimous, then you are not resonant to it. If
mm,
you,
mm.
if suppose you get a big deal in sales and you're dancing left, right, that is also a problem. And if you lost a deal and you're sulking, in both cases you are reacting to pain or pleasure, and that is where resonance comes in. Typically in pleasure people avoid it, but in pain it is quite obvious.
Is there a micro habit that helps to keep a positive resonance?
So I think, yeah, and I mentioned this in the for me personally, it has been Vipassana, because
Okay.
Vipassana, I mean, and Vipassana can't be taught by sharing. It has to be experienced for 10 days. 10 days you are silent. 10 days you are silent, and the only thing which you do for 11 to 12 hours day is meditation, and you do it for 10 days, almost 130 hours of meditation. Correct? And their whole science of Vipassana is so profound that your reaction decreases. If something is
Okay.
coming as an input, typically the
Hmm.
output are several forms. But when the input comes and the output decreases, yeah, which is then you become equanimous. So I would highly
Okay.
encourage you and your listeners to explore Vipassana. There is
Sure.
certainly one wonderful micro habit which has helped me.
Coming to the next topic on your book, right? And you have very nicely talked about productivity, and I read those chapters not once, couple of times, because what we do every day is efficiency and effectiveness, and that's all business is all about. You need to be efficient, you need to be effective. So how does small and big relate to business, and how does it help in productivity? And I saw you are relating it with the management theories very nicely.
Gautam, since you touched on effectiveness and efficiency, for me, when I was writing, it was quite simple.
Hmm.
Productivity is sum of effectiveness plus efficiency. And what is effectiveness? Effectiveness is very simple: choosing the right things among many things which you have to do. So just choosing few things which are the right things. And what is efficiency? Efficiency is executing those right things to their fullest potential. Choosing right things is effectiveness, and doing things right is efficiency. Right? So
Okay.
now I will share one, because the seven productivity principles which I have shown in the book are mapped to these two branches of productivity. So I will choose one in each so that you understand and your listeners understand. There's a lot of research which says that everything around us is in three. If you see the Holy Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh,
Hmm.
if you see the gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal, if you see the phone numbers of this police 100 911. If you
Yeah.
start looking, even if you look at marketing campaigns, just do it, 3 words. So everything, if you look around, is in numbers of three. And there is a phrase which says that anything which comes in three is perfect. The thing is how to apply it in terms of productivity. So the one of the things which I do, in fact, I did it before joining this talk also. I have a board in my where I work, and I
Hmm.
every morning I write three things, only three things which I will do. It's a whiteboard. I write three things, and after I complete it, I put a tick with a green pen. Now you may
Okay.
say there's so many things to do in a day. Of course, there is so many things to do in a day, But if you imagine when I do, or you do, or your listeners do, when we are choosing those three things, like I did in the morning, my brain, which is very powerful, was already doing a search among n number of things which I have to do, and it is powerful enough to pick three. And over time, sometimes you may say you may have to write it, because each of one of us are different. It's okay, you can write things and then pick three,
Right.
complete one thing out of the three thing, and I put a green, because that green signifies to my brain you have done it. And suddenly there's a dopamine release. Dopamine is a feel good hormone. It's a
Mm.
hormone of motivation. It's a hormone of inspiration.
Mm.
So I get that dopamine release, and then I complete two, and then I complete three. So over a
Mm.
day, I finish three. Now, if I ask myself to do 10 things or 12 things, there is a very high chance that I will only complete three or four. And then what will happen to my brain? Oh, you have not finished your work. To be productive, you have to be resourceful, isn't it? If you are not resourceful, how would you be productive? That is one application of rule of three, which is very in line with productivity. Since you talked about business, one another way I implement rule of three is whenever I create a deck, almost 10 out of 10 times it has a three-part narrative. Yeah. It will have only three headlines, three parts in agenda. Anything which comes in three is easily rememberable. Also, it
Right.
becomes a narrative sharper because it's only three. Even in the book, there are only three parts: life, business, and productivity. The second part, which I want to share, which is more in line of efficiency, which is power time capsules. So, one of the
Hmm.
productivity principle which I have shared in the book is power time capsules. And one simple way to explain this is by IKEA founder, who said that divide your day into 10-minute increments.
Okay.
Divide them. And once you
Hmm.
divide them, try to
Hmm.
waste each 10 minutes. If you don't waste them, those just
Okay.
10 minutes, you will be surprised what will you achieve.
Mm.
That is the inspiration toward power time capsules. That what I realized is that there are techniques like Pomodoro technique, which says that focus on something for 25 minutes, whether you are reading, writing, working, and do not do anything else for 25 minutes, and then take a break for 5 minutes, which is
Mm.
great.
Mm.
What I did when I was implementing it, I was implementing Pomodoro technique for sure,
Mhm.
but I
Mhm.
realized that anything between 5 minutes to 30 minutes, it needn't be only 25 minutes. If I focus on, let's say, meditation, I meditate for only 10 minutes. First of all, my brain is receptive to it. It says only 10 minutes, because power of small is persuasive. So I have experimented it for a lot of things. I will draw like mind map. I will draw a mind map, and I'll give myself, okay, whatever I can do in 10 minutes. So I have less time, and I have to create a mind map. And I will almost 10 out of 10 times I will create a mind map in 10 minutes.
Yeah, Amit. So it's really really great. It's like small is big is so important in every aspect of life, right? So you talked
It
about
is.
habit, you talked about spirituality, resonance, and now you talked about productivity, right? So absolutely, absolutely true. So I learned quite a lot in this discussion, Amit, and thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
sharing this. So what's next, Amit? So you have already written two books. So what's coming down the line?
I think, see, for me it is, and for me, big is small. I find find the big and small. So for me, I have understood that, thanks to my teachers, my wife specifically, I have understood that we are on earth for only one reason, that is to develop qualities.
Mm-hmm.
And that qualities, whatever I do, whatever, whether it is personal life, professional life, social life, I am working towards developing qualities. So every interaction, yeah, which I am undergoing in my life, experience or experiment, what you talk about, is about developing qualities. So the moment I have understood this, key, if I'm working to develop qualities. If I'm meditating, I'm developing qualities. As a father, what qualities am I am developing? As an author, what qualities I am developing? So therefore, rather than looking at, what is the next big thing, I am enjoying the process of developing qualities. And my spiritual work, certainly, which is Vipassana, and DSSI, which is Dream Science and Symbol Interpretation, they are my, you can call them catalyst or loyal friends. They
Okay.
help me develop those qualities in everything I do. So that is what I'm, every day I'm working towards. Aspect as far as an author is concerned, my first book, The Ultimate Sales Accelerator, the updated and expanded edition of that book will be published around December. So
Okay.
that is
Okay.
something which I'm working on. It by the time it is published, it will be almost 3.5, 4 years. So I'm very excited about that edition. It will include things which have happened during pandemic, because there was a new element of selling which came, virtual selling which came during that. So it will include that plus several other things. So I'm very excited about that as far as an author goes.
So I will definitely like to show this book to all my audience. This is really a great book. And I think after reading this book, my intent was very clear. I wanted Amit here in my show, wanted to speak to him. And more than sure, I think it is a great opportunity, Amit, to speak to you and learn so much from you. And I'm sure this will go a long way. But as you
Thank you.
said, rule of three. So I have my third section of the podcast.
Okay.
And I would like to ask you, I would like to ask you some rapid fire questions, and I
Please
call
go
them
ahead.
dichotomy of life. So, first one, the easy way is the hard way, or the hard way is the easy way for you?
I mentioned to you this concept of Shraddha, Sabri, Sadhana, which is 3S, to you
Mhm.
and the audience. And for me, these three principles have helped me, whether it is easy way or hard way, because these
Mhm.
principles make me balanced. If it is
Mhm.
hard, I don't get overwhelmed. If it is easy, I don't start dancing. For me, it is the three principles of Shraddha, Sabri, Sadhana, which has helped.
So, love them who respects you, or respect them who loves you.
I think the love and respect are qualities. In fact, I have this prayer for myself. May I always act in love, wisdom, and abundance. Every day I talk about it to myself. That may I always act in love, wisdom, abundance. May I always act in love, wisdom, abundance. May I always act in love, wisdom, abundance. When I speak with this love, wisdom, and abundance, if you notice these three qualities, love, wisdom, and abundance, respect is automatically it will happen. So I think that self talk helps me. Now whether it is love or respect, I think it becomes automatic once I'm harnessing these three qualities.
The third one, design the beginning first or design the end first?
Keep the end in mind. As I said, the small is big. If you have to implement, you need to remember the big, which is the end, let's say. And be detached. Once you are aware of that end, be detached about it and focus on small. That is what, which is the beginning and the journey, because beginning and end is here, but there is a journey. So and that is the reason the power of small helps you. You start small and then you keep on going small, and then you create a domino effect, because there are so many dominoes lined up, and then you
Mhm.
achieve the end.
It was a great conversation, Amit, and thank you from the bottom of my heart to be part of this show and sharing so many things. I hope things happens much more bigger with all the small steps that you are taking. And same to our audiences also. I think we have learned a lot, and I will definitely request my audiences to put some questions for you if they have one, and will request you to answer them through my through the comments and the chat. Thank you so much,
Thank
Amit.
you. Thank you very much, Gautam. All the best to you and to your audience. May all of you harness power of small in life, business, and productivity. Thank you.
That was Amit Agarwal, our first guest of the show and author of the book Small is Big. Three takeaways for me from this episode. Number one, how do we form micro habits, sustain them, and create a big impact in our life? Number two, spirituality and how we build resonance with things and situations around us. And finally, productivity is also an outcome of small steps that we take in our life. While Amit has talked about his fundamentals of life and work today, what are your fundamentals? Please do mention them in the comment box. For listening to more such guests, please don't forget to follow Fundamentals with Gautam on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube. I'll be back with another guest from another field in 2 weeks. Until then, keep exploring and experimenting in life and creating experiences out of it.